Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Hope you had a great weekend. What could we look at this morning? There's so many things, but let's look at, what, was it last week? Yeah, I think it was last week when the Representative Ugo Chinyere, Ikemba, yeah, that's him. No. Ikenga. One must be very, very careful. It's only one Ikemba as far as I can remember. But Representative Ikenga Ugo Chinyere, he had moved this motion that what we need to do now is to crash our system such that a president, when elected, will actually stay in office, will run it for 6 years. Not just the president, governors, also members of the local governor, also members of the local government. So we thought we'd look at it today because our people say, if a thing ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's where we'll be today, but we'll be right back. Stay with us, please.
Good morning, Marina Station and all the passengers. Efficient, it's comfortable.
This development will go a long way in reducing congestion and emission.
The trains are a long-term solution to Lagos traffic challenges.
This is where we take the final, decisions on policies, programs of government. I will have to ensure that, the narration of Lagos as a PLC is taken very, very seriously.
This is a major...
Okay, welcome back. And our guest is Fred Nzeako. He's a lawyer and he's also a policy analyst. Great to have you this morning, Fred.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know how people say, if a thing, as the Americans say, if a thing ain't broke, what would they fix them for? Why would they fix them? It must be in the thought of the members of the House of Representatives that there is something wrong with our current arrangement of 4 years. And so this very big step of saying we should go 6 years, which was roundly opposed. In fact, they wouldn't even let the leader, that were the sponsor of the motion, they wouldn't even let him lead the debate. Give me your thought on the matter. Is he saying something that a lot of people are not seeing, or people think that somehow you're just playing with the system?
Thank you, Yori, and I'm glad to be with you.
Thank you.
For every system, for every policy, for every program, there are pros and cons.
Yes.
There are positives and negatives. Ugo Chinyere, Honorable Ugo Chinyere, Ikenga Ugo Chinyere, Ike Agwono, representing Idato, North and South, constituency, federal constituency of Imo State, and the 33 other lawmakers felt that the system that we operate currently, that the limitations far outweigh the other option, which is the other option, single tenure, 6 years, you go. In their thinking and in their mindset, they felt that it is very expensive to run elections in Nigeria. And for every 4 years, you run very costly elections. And for every 4 years, you spend so much, you don't have enough time to plan your programs and implement them.
Okay.
Because immediately after this current election, you are thinking of the next one. Especially for the executive office of the governor and the president. Immediately after the election, you're thinking of your second tenure. And even during your second tenure, before you end your second tenure, you are thinking of who will replace you, so that you will get your man Friday to replace you, in which case you also get deeply involved in the process. And they now in their thinking, they felt, if we have a single tenure of 6 years, it will take away all this desperation, and it will ensure that there is more sanity and less cost for our electoral process.
Okay. That is their theory.
That's their own theory. And they also feel Because embedded in it is the rotational principle.
Indeed.
We have 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria. They felt when it goes to north and south, when the pendulum swings north and south, for every side there are 3 zones. So when it comes to north, it will be the turn of northwest, next time northeast, next time north central, ditto for south. And they felt that a lot of rancor and acrimony that go with our electoral process will be buried. If you look at it that way, it makes a lot of sense.
It seems logical.
It seems logical. If you now look at the other side, flip the coin on the other side, what is the coin on the other side? If you unfortunately elect,
sorry, sir. Remember that they also want all elections conducted on the
one
same day.
On the same day. That one, I don't know what they had in mind to have proposed that. Even the staggered elections we are finding difficult, and then they want elections all in the same day. I'm looking at the logic. Now you flip the coin on the other side. How can you conduct all elections in the same day? If our electoral system is filled with people, the electorates are literate enough, if our electoral system has advanced to the level where even electronic voting can be done, if you're trying to imitate the American system, where even before the election, some people are called early voters.
That's right.
They would have voted and gone. The whole thing will be kept in post office until the day they will be unwrapped. But the flip side to it is, if you unfortunately elect the wrong person, you'll be tied down with that wrong person for 6 years.
Of course. Well, the same way it works with the 4-year cycle.
The same way it works with the 4-year cycle.
You elect the wrong person, you're stuck with them.
You're stuck with the wrong person, and the wrong person will even want to get a second tenor, and in most cases, using the power of incumbency, he gets the second tenor. You are now tied to the 8 years instead of 6. The next one is there anything wrong with rotation? Nothing. Absolutely. Some countries, the one that readily comes to mind is Switzerland. By next tenor, you know who the next leader of Switzerland is because of their rotation principle. And whoever that will become the next leader, let's say next president, would have been vice president by now, understanding the president, and the next shift will come to his own side and he becomes the president. That way, they usually have seamless transition. And that is why you cannot throw away the baby with the bathwater. Their idea and their opinion makes a lot of logic and a lot of sense. And the way it was shut down by their colleagues gives an impression that their colleagues did not have enough time to think through the possibility of such policy. Or they were in a hurry, or they just blocked their mind from opening it up to new ideas and new interests and new issues. Because it's a new idea, which if you look at the pros and cons, the options for it in favor of that option may seem much better. Let's take this issue of rotation, for example.
You know, it's an upheaval to the whole system. That much must be admitted. That, look, no matter the logicality of it, look, when you look at it, as it were, neutrally, and there's nothing neutral about Nigeria, one has to be aware of that. When you look at it like that, shouldn't we work much better at perfecting the 4 years, for example, which is the central plank of this whole conversation? Yes. Shouldn't we be working at perfecting that more than it is at the moment, rather than the systemic upheaval of let's come with a totally new ground rules up?
The problem with some human beings is difficulty to adapt to change.
Okay.
It's a major problem.
Okay.
That natural inertia is in almost most human beings. To change from what they know to what they think becomes a problem. And that is why they shut down this one without even giving it deep thought. I belong to the school of thought that believes that when we need to rejig our constitution, we need to restructure our system. If this comes in as part of the political restructuring, in which will now drive the financial, fiscal restructuring, that will be anchored on true fiscal federalism, you can see that their mindset should not be ignored completely. It is important to give it a deep thought. and to be able to come out from the current political morass that we find ourselves. This idea of rotation, it is, even as we speak, it is in our system, but it is not etched in our laws.
No.
It's a gentleman agreement. It is in the mentality and the mind of politicians and even the electorate themselves.
But cannot be enforced.
Yeah, the power, but cannot be enforced because it is not part and parcel of our laws, more or less like a gentleman agreement.
Yes.
The power should oscillate between the north and the south. So is there anything wrong with putting it in our laws? You ask yourself. Is there anything wrong with ensuring that out of these geopolitical zones that will further firm up this zonal principle and zonal arrangement so that not only that power at that level will move from one zone to another, when you come to the governorship, each state has 3 zones, 3 senatorial zones. So is there anything wrong with moving? And of course, that one happens even without having it in our laws. And that is why even in most recent elections, you find out if the governor comes from the central and the next person wants to come from the same central, they will say no. It has to be the turn of the south or the turn of the west or the east, depending on the nomenclature of the geopolitical zone, of the senatorial zone in the state. So if it is put down in our laws, will it hurt? Because in every senatorial zone, there is no way you will tell anybody that you cannot produce a sound, robust governor from that zone. The advantage is that if each zone knows that it is our turn, they will very well be more serious in bringing out the very best from their zone at the senatorial level. At presidential level, if each zone knows that it is, for example, the turn of the Southeast will ensure that they bring out their very best. So that becomes a positive for this kind of policy. And I think I have reasoned robustly around that idea, and I felt that it should not be struck off the way it was struck off on the floor of assembly, of the parliament, federal parliament. They did not give it deep thought.
Okay, I wonder.
And I think it is still not too late for them to give it deep thought.
Well,
And those who are pushing this motion are saying their doors are not completely closed because they believe that they can now go through the route of constitutional amendment to see whether that can go in. But if it cannot go in on the floor, how can it go in at that level?
Because,
that's because they're challenged.
Because there are provisions. In fact, all of what they were doing, what those legal legislative gentlemen were doing, or well, legislative persons, because it also includes women, they were effectively trying to change the constitution by this, because they were actually removing and replacing sections of the Constitution to make this whole idea fit as a principle, as a proposal.
Yes.
And I think this is what the Legislative House saw and probably decided, you have said perhaps a bit hastily, that we have enough problems. We don't want to go through this rigorous constitutional amendment program.
That amounts to legislative laziness.
You think so?
I agree. I think so. That amounts to legislative laziness because if you can see them, I have run through our constitution as a person. I mean, I've read it like a book, run through our constitution. And even some areas where I saw inconsistencies, I even noted them. So, constitutional study, we have National Institute of Democratic Studies. We have people that are working day and night, working on our constitutional issues. We have many people who are interested in advancement of our constitution. So if it is not legislative laziness, there is no reason why they will not give it a deep thought.
Okay, let's see what Oko, who is in Abuja, is watching in Abuja. He's called in. Let's see what Oko thinks. Good morning, Oko. Oko in, Coco, I'm sorry, Coco in,
hello.
Morning, is that Coco in Abuja?
Yes, please. Good morning, Mr. Yori. How are you, sir?
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much. I'm fine. Please go ahead with your comment, observation.
Okay. Please, I would like you to just point out to your guests that it should not make this issue of rotation sound too easy, that if every zone knows that it is their turn, they will rally around to produce a very good candidate. Please, let's note that the parties are not going to consult the whole zone. to come up with a very good candidate. For instance, you find out that the politicians in the party will rally around to produce their own candidate. Let us not say that the zone will produce the best candidate. Sometimes the zone will not even be consulted. President Obasanjo was elected in 1999 without votes from the Southwest. That's just my example.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Oko.
No, but Mr. Koko did not understand. Possibly he didn't follow our thought process from beginning. We are looking at a new, we are imagining a brand new policy, a brand new constitution. He is looking at it from the prism of the current arrangement. We're looking at this thing that will rejig the entire arrangement.
This will be a paradigm shift.
A complete paradigm shift. In that case, if it is agreed and etched in our constitution, every political party will want to bring their candidate from that zone that it is their turn, agreed in principle and in letters of our laws. What it now means is that each political party will now struggle to bring up their very best within that zone. If we have, say, today we run about 18 political parties, but of course you know that not all the 18 are strong. We can say we have 3 strong political parties. I use the word advisedly because any political party that can put a representative in the parliament and possibly have somebody in the seat of government at the state or federal level can be termed a strong party. So today we have 3, or let's say 4. If the 4 political parties, for example, are working to bring the very best in a particular zone, I tell you that they will fish out the very best. It becomes an internal competition.
Okay, let's add to this contribution. Sani Adenuga is in Abuja. Good morning.
Network is really bad.
Okay, good morning, Sani.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Sani, we can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning to you and to your guest, Dr. Fred. Now, I think the way I look at this is this. It's being looked at in a simplistic form of things. And I'm going to join some views with the last caller who was saying that what's going to happen to the political party. Sometimes there are things that are, like Barrister Fred said, when you look at it currently, there is a gentleman understanding that there has to be, when it comes to the north, this to the south. But the issue is, I just think the proponent of this amendment, if you can call it that way, or this idea,
It's a proposal.
they are only trying to solve problems for political gladiators. How does it solve the problem the average man on the Nigerian street face? I have talked about this idea of changing time, and you keep asking yourself that 6 years, someone wants us to vote somebody into power, and the person is there for 6 years. 6 years is someone who enters a university could have finished a PhD in that period of time, and who will stick our life to one person if we are by being unfortunate to elect such a person. So, in my view, I think they need to come up with how this idea, I don't want to say we should throw it away, but how will it affect the ordinary man on the street of the country?
Okay.
Not about solving the interests of some few political people who just feel they want their turn to be the president or they want their turn to be the governor. I think that's just why I probably want Barrister Fred to not like him. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sani Adenuga. Sani is chairman of Boot Political Party in Nigeria. You know, he participated in the election. And, aspects of his of Sani's contribution here, I think it also aligns with the concern of Koko, who called in earlier, that how will this benefit the ordinary person in terms of getting a better deal, I'm talking about the more equitable, more inclusive, more participatory. How will it do that? In fact, it will do the opposite of that, seems to be the...
It's very simple. How does democracy affect the life of ordinary person? By increasing their welfare, increasing their standard of living, and delivering good governance to the people. And how do you ensure that? By electing the right hands.
Okay.
That's it. So once you elect the right hands, the very best in the environment, at least perceived very best, because we are all human. But you look at somebody's pedigree, you look at somebody's nature and antecedents to know how well the person can do when in office. So if you elect the right person, then you enjoy the dividends of democracy. You enjoy good governance, and then that's the very best way it will benefit everybody. The current system that we operate has a lot of problems. Yeah. Yes, you mentioned your initial intro that why don't we look at strengthening the current system of 4 years? There's nothing wrong with strengthening it, but we are now looking at this idea. You know, this idea had come before. This is not the first time. It kept coming. Some people will think of 5 years. Some people will think of 6 years. But on the average, if you tell a man 6 years, certain, when you win an office, any position, then you bring in your very best. Then after 6 years, the rest will be history. Most people will like that.
Okay.
Most people.
One moment. Chukwuemeka in Abuja. Good morning to you, sir. Chukwuemeka, can you hear us? Good morning.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Uncle Yeri and yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I am really thinking that from their first analysis or their best analysis of the 6-year tenure, that would have been the best thing happening to Nigeria. But if you listen to what he said, anybody who wins the election is thinking of the next one he's going to contest. If he happens to win another 4 years, he's thinking of his man Friday. So when does he have time to think fully of the office he's holding? Because 60 to 70% of his time is working on the next election. But if you're having a 6-year tenure, that is one single tenure, the Nigerians will manage that their first 4 years after winning an election and appointing the people to work with will be concentrated on the office you are holding. Even at the local level of area councils, the first 3 years is what they use, knowing to where they will come for the second tenure. But in the second tenure, they don't even do anything. So the first 2 years of their tenureship is used in doing anything they can do. So I think that the best thing, the new paradigm shift for us Nigerians is having a single 6-year tenure, where the winner will concentrate his first 3 years on working for the people and his remaining 2 years for his own recreation, knowing too well he's not coming again. I think that it would have been the best thing. All this and even in the regional perspective, it is also good. So every region is now guaranteed that it is a constitutional thing, that at a point in time, a person coming from his region will be representing him there. Because the way Nigeria is made today, if we are going to a free and fair election, there are certain parts of Nigeria that can never take the presidency because they don't even have the vote. And the voters don't even have the analysis that is devoid of tribe and religion. So they will always vote in one line. So let's make it just, already, unfortunately, the National Assembly or the House of Rep has already jettisoned the idea. But I think the second thought should be given to you. Thank you, Uncle Yuri.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for calling in. He introduced another aspect. If you want, so there will be those who refer to it as the elephant in the room, because he made a statement earlier that, without this kind of an idea, quote unquote, paraphrasing him now, there are parts of this country that will never, ever experience the presidency. Of
course. The beauty of rotation is that it is very inclusive. If you don't rotate, there are parts of Nigeria that may never produce the president for many, many years. There are parts of Nigeria. Let's say, for example, South-South. Apart from Jonathan, whose own was naturally circumstantial. Naturally circumstantial. Do you think somebody from South-South would have won an election if we continue to go with this tripod of East, West, and North? But when it is rotational, you see, the beauty of this type of idea, Yori, is that it helps the people to start searching for the good man on time. If I know that in 12 years' time that it will be the turn of my people, I will start cleaning up myself from beginning if I know I have that idea to run for presidency. And then the people themselves, who are the leaders, will begin to nurture leaders that will take up that pinnacle position that will not bring shame to their own people. Because 6 years, for 6 zones, for example, the clock will go round in 36 years.
Yeah, I hear you.
The clock will, so if you have an opportunity, make very good use of it. Yet, we will still have the provision for impeachment if any leader does not do well. That impeachment clause will still be there.
Okay.
But it will, when you impeach Mr. A, you choose his replacement from the same zone.
In fact, now that you mentioned that legal terminology, impeachment, I was reminded that there are aspects in their idea of midterm. You know, after 3 years, you come and make a report.
Make a report.
And
there could be midterm referendum, midterm election, something like that.
There actually could be. So,
yes.
Okay, but why did the House of Reps, you know,
they were in a hurry?
Turn it
Two
out.
major reasons. One, they didn't want to exercise their intellectualism, stretch it.
Okay, they didn't want to.
They didn't want to bring that imagination,
intellectual vigor to it.
Put intellectual vigor to it. That is one. Two, like I said earlier, so many people have this inertia, difficulty to shift from what they know to what they imagine. They are comfortable where they are, and they don't want it to be torpedoed. Meanwhile, there's no torpedo. It's only fine-tuning.
Okay. Is Fred Nzeako's position on this matter, is it yours? Let's know. Let's hear all shades of opinion on it.